Fernando Mendez, chiropractor, Brooklyn. So I wrote the word chiropractor on the board, and in big letters, I put the Thor idea, or the T-O-R part of the chiropractor. And I don't know, this idea was in my head because it seems like there's war about. And I was given some guide by these Catholic nuns about the war in the heavens that's come to earth between the angels and the demons, and then what we see out in the world. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's something I've really never thought about. And I don't even like to think about the idea or bring that into my office, but I feel like it's coming in, and I have to kind of be ready for it. And we always talk about like kind of love and nice things and caring for people, but there is a storm coming in through the door sometime. I feel like one of the big themes is the Tower of Babel. We're talking with people and stuff, or trying to reason with them. We're not really getting many places. So I just try to keep it simple, get them adjusted, and get them moving on. And that's the message I give them, not anything where I'm chatting. And I think focusing on being a chiropractor is more of a practical idea than something just thinking about chiropractic and having it like idealized, because it gets really messy sometimes with people, especially when they have so much tension that they're coming in with. And what else? How much time do I have, Brian?
You got 2 minutes.
Oh, I still have 2 minutes. I'll continue. On a text thread I had going with Brian and Bob, we were talking about the word to serve. Bob doesn't like the word to serve. Brian brought up the word observe, and I really liked about like observing chiropractic and how we notice when people come in. If you just look at the definition of word, it's about noticing them. Sometimes we observe things, it's a ceremony, so I gotta remind myself to go through the process with the person, let them tell about their pains and stuff. But then also when we observe something, there's silence, and I feel like that always helps my process with chiropractic. And then just having these ideas in my head recently was also the idea of just being present with the person, being patient with them, and at the end try to make some sense. Even though I'm not trying to reason with them, I just try to keep things simple, and kind of that's helping me deal with what I'm seeing coming into my office now, and just keeping me going, because it is labor. Even though it's a labor of love, it is labor. So you got to have like a good place in where you're at, and that's all I have to share.
Okay. Would you like to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Alex.
Could you review again what you meant by observe?
I will, but since I want to continue saying something, I'm going to answer another question that you didn't ask me. That's what some people do. I was going to say, I also ask for help. So that's part of my process. I ask for help from our spiritual friends, or just whatever. Because I do, when I'm taking care of people, I take on that responsibility, but I also realize it's not us who are doing most of the work. I also have to stay humble. But the process I was talking about was just that from the word observe was noticing the person, just even from the root of the word, we observe them. Again, because people tell you the craziest things that don't make any sense. It's like, my back's been hurting me for 2 days. Oh, okay, it's been a problem for like 20 years and there's so much going on, but they don't give you the details, or they give you information you don't need. So I just really study them, notice them, that body language, which, over the years we get better and better. Then the observe, like a ceremony, like we're observing a process. The patient comes in, all this regular things. They get on the table. It's like a whole process, a whole ceremony. They tell you their concerns, and obviously we take care of them in kind of a certain fashion. And then about observing like the silence. When they even say you observe a moment of silence. It's kind of it's part of observing. So that's what I got from the word observe.
Anyone else Alex is coming up. Oh, that's...
Hey everybody. Since our last meeting, there's been a lot going on in my life. I feel like, the last meeting I wasn't really feeling at my best, and then about a week later I really hurt myself, and I was really concerned I had some really bad stuff going on, and thankfully I had Fernando come and adjust me twice in 1 week, which really just took it to another level. But I think I was going through like a purification process, and the last time I spoke, which is now a few meetings ago, I talked about wanting to elevate what I do and refine it. And I remember Brian asking me, well, what does that mean? And I didn't really have a very good answer. I think the more I put into it and just experienced in the last few weeks, being present, like Fernando was just saying, and when somebody comes in, I tend to talk a lot. I've been trying to really pull back on that a bit, focus on getting them on the table, and really just being present in that moment. And it's really something, because I felt like in the last week things were clicking so well. It's really been just a breath of fresh air, and I had a pretty special week in the office. I had a lot of people coming in I haven't seen for quite some time. And it was just one of those times where energy was flowing from me to them and them to me in a very special way. And I actually had a few experiences where I had some new people, and they were really excited by the way I worked on them and the magic that was going on in the office. And then I even had the occasion that a few of them contacted some other people they knew, and they came in. So it was really like, just when everything is clicking, it was a very, very special time. And I thought a lot about that term. I remember back to when Bob talked about with service, it comes from slavery, but I still feel like that's where I'm at. I serve people, they come in, I'm there most weeks, 6 days a week, and I put everything I can into it. And it's nice when you actually get a time when it feels like the labor has paid off. That's it.
Anyone want to ask Alex anything? Anyone? I do, Alex. What is the labor?
Showing up, even when you're maybe not necessarily at your best, but continuing to, with every person that comes in, see them as a unique individual, and everybody gets custom care. There's no one size fits all, and just being open to what they need.
All right. Anyone else want to ask Alex anything? Anyone? Anyone? All right, Alex. Gracias.
Thanks.
Excelente. Clap. Amanda, do you want to say anything?
No, thanks.
You sure?
Yeah.
You can speak in your the Pennsylvania Dutch that you know.
Native tongue.
Amanda denies that she's Amish.
Oh,
but
Nancy.
that's her business. All right, Nancy Brown, you go.
Okay, hi everybody.
You guys can hear her?
Mm-hmm.
I received some messages that I just want to share with you on two topics. The first one is alignment. As everybody is aware, and Fernando referred to it, the physical universe, the world is out of alignment. There's a lot of focus on the war in Gaza, but remember that there's a war in the Ukraine, there's starvation in Yemen and Sudan, there's stuff going on in Brazil, there's been 3 earthquakes in Afghanistan, and on and on and on. So the physical universe is out of alignment. People are reacting to that, but also up above, the heaven worlds reflect what we do, because we're supposed to be bringing heaven to earth. And so the work of chiropractors right now in getting people aligned within themselves is so crucially important. It is life-saving. It is part of the evolution of this universe. And what you are doing is you think you're in your office doing your work and doing your adjustments and helping people literally get aligned. But it's a bigger picture that you're contributing to because you're part of an energetic network or a morphic field that goes for chiropractors all over the world and also in the heaven worlds. So because of that, this is part two, it's really important for chiropractors now to take care of yourselves. I'm dealing with it as a psychic, but I know you all have to be dealing with the intensity of what's happening right now, the emotions that are out there with people, and self-care and healing yourself and trying to stay centered and doing everything that you know how to do to calm yourself, to stay aligned yourself, not only getting adjusted, but praying and doing whatever it is that you feel drawn to do to heal yourself is really essential. So I want to say that all with appreciation and love and big hugs to everybody for the work that you do. Thank you.
All right. Anyone want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? Alex.
Nancy, what is your advice in this tumultuous time on trying to find the best path forward?
That's a good question. Thank you for that. I think it's an individual response, but one thing that I know is taking one day for yourself where you rest and you really go inside yourself and pray is extremely helpful.
Okay.
Anyone else like to ask
I don't know
Nancy?
what happened. The picture just went off, but
So do you mean basically like really take in the Sabbath and really
Yes.
make that a centering day?
mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? Jack? You say? Good job, Jackie. All right, anyone else? One more time? All right, we'll clap for Nancy Brown. I haven't heard from Phil, so I don't know. Maybe they got caught in traffic. Well, Sarah, do you want to say anything?
No, thank you.
Jack, you already spoke. Jack did. He interrupted Nancy, but look at him. All right then. Well, I got notes and everything. So I will speak. So I'll be the featured speaker. So Brian Patrick Corrigan, chiropractor, Jersey City, New Jersey. Thank you. So I actually wrote notes. So I came with some. So I go through all this stuff. I go through all my notes. I'm trying to really tie all these things together. So this is what has come to me this past week. Many years ago, I got this first part from Pasquale. He spoke about how it's like people went up to God, what he called Old Man Pop, and said, now he said when seasons change, now that's very important. I'll get to that in a second. That they said, we don't need you to rule anymore, leave us alone. And then things got worse and worse and worse and worse. So, what some people call the fall of man, meaning male, female. Now, as we've all seen me draw many times, I'm going to do it again. This one straight up, oh, I messed up. This one straight up and down is true north. This is magnetic north. So, I'll get more into that in a moment. True north would represent like the Almighty God. That's God. And then you have magnetic north, but you could also call the fall of man. I'll get to that in a second. So, we really have to be. So, our consciousness has been in magnetic north. So, what does that get us? It gets us all sorts of stuff. In that sense, When you're not aligned with God, you don't have a leader. And when people don't feel they have a leader, they run around like crazy. And what happens is, in that moment, there's where the wars. And that's why we have crime. And we had to take on different parts to survive the magnetic north. So inside of us, we have what's called the immune system, which is a system of war. Since we have that inside of us, that's why there's wars on the outside. I'm just giving you some ground stuff. I'll get into a little bit deeper right now. Now, I've also been thinking about the word fault, F-A-L-U-T. And they have these things called fault lines. So I'm going to write it over here, F-A-U-L, then I'm going to separate it, and then T. So it's not the letter of the law of the word, it's the spirit. So that could be F-A-L-L. The lowercase t is balance. So it's like a fall from balance, which is another way of saying the fall of man coming out of heaven. So, now the earth. So we have two different things. You have the earth. The world is the face of the earth. So when you talk about magnetic north, think about that's the face of the earth shifting. And that's what that is. And when we fell and that shifted, it put these cracks in the earth. This is what I'm saying. I'm not a geologist. This means a spiritual thing. It put the cracks in there, and those are those fault lines. So, once again, so true north, and then magnetic north, that's because it fell, we have fault lines in the earth, which is the core. So what I'm taking all this stuff at is, while we're here, magnetic north, it's like our soul, our consciousness is not attached to God. And we run around doing all these crazy things because we don't feel an attachment to a leader. So that's what happens. And in here, your soul really takes a beating. We really take a beating in this magnetic north. And it goes on and on and on and on. So now we're going to get down to some other things. So, what does chiropractic help us do? As Nancy was just talking about, it helps us get in the pause. And for me, true north, I like to say Almighty God, that's the pause. So what's in there? There's no ebb, and there's no flow, and there's no tone. It just is. That's the stillness. So what's in there? Well, and I got this from Pasquale, and I'm going to put my own 2 cents into it. He called it the multi-dimensional man. And when you're in here, this cannot be broken apart. The multi-dimensional man, or I'm going to say person, multi-dimensional person cannot be broken apart. It's an image. I'm going to get that in a moment. So, magnetic north, what's in there? That, Pasquale said this, he says, when you come outside of that pause, and in magnetic north, you can call yourself, you're a particle. The particle man, you can be taken apart. How many people say they feel like they're just broken? They feel like they're broken into pieces. They feel like they're just broken apart. And you see people, their lives are just destroyed for various reasons, and they don't feel safe to do anything. And they rather just stay at home or hide because they're afraid. They're broken. They feel so beat up, they don't know what to do. But the multi-dimensional man up in here cannot be destroyed. You cannot take it apart. You can't destroy it. But the one thing Pasquale says is, it can go to sleep. So what do I mean? When you're in magnetic north, it's like our consciousness is not fully aware of who we really are, of that image. Because that's where the image comes from. It comes from that true north, from God. Now, another Pasquale quote. God is an imager. So God is not a creator. God is an imager. Well, what does that mean? The word create means to bring forth. All right. Then he also spoke about birth, which I don't think I'm really going to get into today, because I think that would take us to another thing I don't want to get into. But another day I will. But we are bringing forth from our consciousness in magnetic north, from that broken person mentality, that broken person system, that risk system, that system of war. Now, chiropractic came here, and D.D. Palmer spoke about many times about our spiritual existence throughout eternity, to connect man the physical with man the spiritual. You know, that guy understood this was about our connection to God. He really did. Now, that's why chiropractic came here. For us to realize, to get in that pause, to feel safe, so we can get back up to being in that true north. Because that's where we have to be to get through all this stuff. Now, just a moment ago, I spoke about how we're in a stupor. If you think about the word, you have two big arteries here on each side of your neck called carotid, which is C-A-R-T-O-I-D. It comes from a Greek word, karotides, K-A-R-O-T-I-D-E-S, and that means stupor. We've been in this, when you're in this mindset, in this world, in magnetic north, you're in a stupor. And you're not aware of certain things, and that's how we get into all this trouble. So, as I said, chiropractic helps us align ourselves. Now, so here's what I think is going to start to happen. This is my 2 cents on all this. As we finally, now magnetic north is always ticking towards true north. It's always it's ticking, and as chiropractors, we're helping people realize and become more aware that they really are from God, and we can get our consciousness back in there. And I believe as that happens, as magnetic north comes to true north, that's going to line up. So, and I think what's going to happen is those fault lines are going to come back together. Because that's what we really are. It's like taking that scrambled egg and putting it back together again. And when that comes together again, you're going to see earthquakes. And right now, the face of the earth, of the world, is tilted. As that comes to line, things that are now on the water will be out of water. Things that are now out of water will be on the water. It's like a pole shift. What's east will be west. What's west will be east. North will be south. South will be north. And the sunrise and sunset, that will also switch. I know this sounds kind of kooky, but these things are coming. I just want to talk about Elita for a moment. Now, her Lolita Deans, but she got Pasquale, that's Pasquale's wife, which he called her Elita. So Elita Dean Sarasoli was her name. Now, she was born October 31st, 1949, and she passed away November 13th, 1998, so just in 2 days. The reason why I want to talk about her, now there's some people in this room who knew her, so we can talk about her. But even if you don't know her, you can watch the video, and what I'm going to talk about, you can get it from picking up from watching that video. Now, we're vessels of light. And I only knew her for 9.5 months, but I was fortunate. She was kind enough to invite me over here to hang out with her while she used to have meetings for the people up in her office. So I went to some, and I hung out with her in the office. And, people talk about in the Bible, it says vessels of light. I really think that woman did it. I think right in front of us, she made that shift, and she was aligned. Her magnetic north and true north were aligned. And I guess the one thing I got from Pasquale, he said about, which I think he got in a reading from Nancy, is she purposely chose to go so she could help all of us, not just here, people on this planet more. Now, so those of you who never met her, I only have the one video that I was able to find of her speaking, and you can go to the Self Center YouTube channel and put in Elita, and you'll see her there. And when you watch that, just think about what I said about how she was a vessel of light. You can really absorb it from her, because I watched people around her, and I watched them just melt. I mean, melt in her presence. And some of these people I knew, and they didn't get along with anyone. They fought with everyone, and were pretty wild people, but around her, they just couldn't resist that love that she had inside of her. She really, really was loved. What I mean, by allowing people to love her, but the reason why she could do that, because she loved herself, that's number one, and by loving others. And by allowing these people to love her, I think they just sense something, they sense that safeness in her. They sense that they were in that true north, that they could feel that they were connected to God being around her. And what a gift that she was for people to be around. Every once in a blue moon, I'll bump into someone. Every couple of years, I somehow bump into someone who went to her. And, you know, and we speak about her, and they pretty much say the things that I'm just saying about her. And she was an example for me, and she didn't sit there and give people speeches or tell them how to run their life, or I'm going to be your life coach, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. She didn't really say that much. Just her presence was so powerful, it got these people to just relax. So I've really been thinking about her these last 2 weeks, because her, maybe a little more, because her birthday came up. And that lady had it. And she was an example for me. And I just want to make it one of my personal things to make sure a lot of these young chiropractors know who she is. Because she was that special. And for those of us, like I said, who knew her personally while she was around there, you knew that lady had it. People around there knew that she had it. I always want to just make sure I keep bringing her name up because it's that special. And I wonder, because there have been a lot of, another back to Pasquale, he said years ago, they're going to start having a lot of earthquakes in all the stands, like Afghanistan and this stand, and these poor people over there are going through these earthquakes. So I have something to read, and this will be the last thing. Now, I found this, I found my notebooks. I'm getting my place in order from 2005 from the meetings right here. So this was from, I don't have the date this was said, but 2005. He says, all the disasters happening in the world and those that are to happen in the future, why are they happening and why are more going to happen? Okay, so here it goes. All our souls are coming back into one. This means that there will be less people in the world. Remember the old saying, you are two places at once. All our souls are split and they are out traveling around gaining experiences. It is now time for them to come back home. Although these disasters are terrible, what seems so terrible to us does not seem so terrible to our spiritual friends because they understand the whole picture. So I'll end on that. So does anyone want to ask me anything? I was the featured speaker, so only a few people.
I thought you were the 3-minute guy.
No, this is the end of the meeting.
I missed the 3-minute thing?
Yeah, there's only 4 people spoke. Anyone want to ask me anything? I threw a lot of stuff out there, I know. Go ahead, Phil.
So since the scientists tell us that Earth was here 4 billion years, and humanity, Homo sapiens, about 200,000 years, what came first, the tilt of the Earth or the tilt of humanity?
Well, I think they're together. The fall of man is why that happens. We're the ones who brought that tilted thing forth. That's what we created and that's what we brought forth, because that's the consciousness we're at. To me, that's the fall of man. Anyone else want to ask me anything? Bill Bracco.
In that last thing that you read from
Yeah.
2005, you said that, Pasquale said,
Yeah.
that the souls split,
Yes.
and then when they came back together, people were going to be lost. I don't quite understand that.
I don't understand all of it either. I just read it because I wanted you guys to hear it.
Okay.
Well,
That's something else for me to work on. But I mean, I've heard people say that, but I just found it the other day. I really haven't dug into it to what it means to me yet.
You think Nancy might know?
yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead, Phil.
because he did say there's going to be less people on the Earth.
Correct.
What he's saying is that the two souls, your souls split up
Yes.
to get more experiences as one soul. But once you gain the experiences you had to, the two will come back as one. So just to use round numbers, 8 billion will become 4 billion. That's what he meant by there'll be less people because the souls are gonna combine and you only need one body instead.
Because there are some people who say your soul has two parts,
Right,
the feminine side and the male side, and they wound it and then they come back.
right.
That's what I thought of when I read that. Does anyone else want to ask me anything? I'll make sure you guys can get that. I found it, so something told me to read it, so I read it.
I don't expect you to know
Sure.
the answer to this, okay, but, if the two souls split,
Yes.
and as Phil just said, they're gaining more experiences because
Yeah.
there's two, right, and then they come back to one. I wonder, why is it that we keep going through the same things over and over again? Like people killing each other, because they don't like each other. And then, you know, it just doesn't make sense.
I think at some point, we're going to get to that point where you either, and this is another thing I found, another page of that 2005 notebook, which he says, you get to that certain point and you either attach yourself to a higher entity or to the Almighty God, or you devolute, meaning go back to the rainforest, and you're going to become like a gorilla or something like that, or you get ground up to electrons. Now, but I also think people are so stuck in this magnetic north, most people don't feel safe. They're afraid to even realize that they have a connection to God. I don't even think they want to even look at that. And chiropractic, to me, helps people feel safe to look at that. That's going to help us get, because karma is about doing. It's about our space and time. Chiropractic brings us out of space and time. For us to look, see all the stumbling blocks we have inside of us, get rid of them so we're done with all these karmic patterns in our aura, or clean our aura up and just be done with it. That's really what I think chiropractic does. And once you clear that up, you're done. And there are some people who still operate thinking that they can, it's just from this consciousness, from the dark forces, push people around or do this or do that, but their time is up and they know it. And we're seeing craziness. But what's going on is, it's really a spiritual elevation. I guess the last few years have made people accelerate things, because I guess God's like, you got to pick this up. So there's been an acceleration these last few years, and now at the time, in that moment, now people are realizing, all right, I can slow down, and I have to slow down so I can really see all these things. Chiropractic helps them slow down, helps them feel safe to slow down, helps them feel safe to work through all these things in small sequential steps. And once you see more and more people doing that, once we have more and more chiropractors just going out there just to truly serve people and do it, you're going to really see things change. In the way where you're not going to have these wars, you're not going to have all that stuff anymore. It'll just go away. In the twinkle of an eye, as 1 Corinthians says. 1 Corinthians 15:50 something. Is your hand up, Phil?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry for coming in late, but what was that about the carotid arteries again?
Oh, I was speaking about, all right, I had to say something before I said that. I spoke about up in like the true north, you have what I refer to as the multi-dimensional person that cannot be broken apart. The fallen man in the magnetic north, we call it the particle person, that can be broken apart. Because you see a lot of people, how they describe themselves as broken. We've all heard people say that. Mm-hmm. Emotionally, physically, and they're broken, and that's how they view themselves. So, the point was, the multidimensional man cannot, I'll say person, the multidimensional person cannot be broken apart. It cannot be destroyed, but it can fall asleep. And I spoke about the carotids, because some people say, this represents like your earthly stuff, this represents the crown chakra, your spiritual. Carotid are your arteries on each side. If you spell, carotid comes from Greek, K-A-R-O-T-I-D-S, which means stupor. I think in this magnetic north country, we're in a stupor. Or else, why would we be doing all this crazy stuff? We would just know, hey, we're God's image. There's no need to run around and do all this craziness. There's more to it, and I had other things, but I decided not to say them. I'll hold other things for another day. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. We are created in God's image, and people are forgetting that. How does a chiropractor, how do you, as a chiropractor, help people to remember the holiness of who they are?
For me, just, it starts with me loving myself and loving that person and allowing them to love me. And I believe that makes a safe zone. And as I serve people in that allows them to feel safe to realize that they are God's image. And as the one thing Elita used to always say, we're bigger than our problems. That was one of her big things she would say to the people that she took care of. They realized that they can work through whatever they have to work through. They can feel safe enough to do it. And that's the gift I learned from Elita, just helping people feel safe. And when someone feels safe, they will do a lot of great things for themselves. So a lot of people don't feel safe right now. And by helping someone feel safe, you'll see miracles happen. Anyone else want to ask me anything? All right, folks, so that's it for me. All right,